learning having the privacy at this kind of age. I don't know, from the school will teach them.
Schools uh, are keeping secrets from parents. And you're right. Maybe they are learning it from at school, or they're learning it on the internet or social media or their friends, that this kind of mentality, like, don't tell your parents. This is always a red flag to teach children. You should, for parents to tell their little kids, you should be worried about somebody who's asking you to keep a secret from them. It's okay for our children to fail.
Sometimes the parents have become so offensive for their children. They don't want to listen from anyone. Do we have any other signs that can predict parents also that the children are in anxiety or in depression? Many times parents try to convey that the person who is the most elder, right? Even the elder
Right.
brother, the parents are trying to convey them, oh, he's so small that you are so more understanding, so you have to say sorry to him, kind of thing.
This is I'm glad you said that.
In India, mostly that we found, the older brothers has sacrificed lots of things. That
That's
after
right.
the father, that it's like he has to take the responsibility of the whole house. That everyone is thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little unfair, it seems to me.
Yeah.
My question to parents is, who's going to win the loyalty of your son, of your daughter, of your children? That's the battle that we are in America, for the loyalty, and we are being bombarded 365, 24/7, music, movies, media, internet, social media.
So one parent says that if someone is bullying you, just stay away from them. Don't go to that kind of people. Second parent says that if they bullying you, just give the fight back. What's your opinion?
Yeah,
Did you fight in your school?
yes, I did. It's okay for our children to fail.
Hi, Richard. Welcome back again.
It's good to see you again. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And this is really nice to have again. And really appreciate it because many people has really appreciated the last episode, and they were thinking about the very fruitful the advice that you have given. So today that we I'm gonna ask you about the some another questions that gonna up to the next level for the all ages of the kids and the parents that we will cover today.
Okay.
So today my first question is that what is the most underrated parenting skill that can transform a child's behavior and emotional well-being?
Yeah, I think the one of the things is active listening. The parents need to really listen and not just be thinking about what they're going to say,
Yeah.
but active listening, I think, is a underrated skill. We can be busy and buy things and go places and take the kids here and buy them this, but to actually sit down with them, look them in the eye, and listen to what they have to say, and to validate their feelings, ask questions, uh, not belittle them. Maybe they're saying silly things, but not to make them feel, small, but actually to validate their feelings. And that's a very important skill for parents to learn how to actively listen.
What about the another skills that I feel that is about the emotion coaching? That is sometimes what happened that the kids are every time they are crying, right? They wants to say anything, but they start crying immediately. They started tantrums. So the people get frustrated, right? That many parents try to say to their kids that stop crying, don't say anything, just stay over there and don't do anything, kind of things. They are trying to give the commands on that rather than understanding the emotions that kids have. So what are the thoughts on your that? Because even sometimes I feel frustrated many times.
Sure.
My daughters is starting crying, whatever they want to say, but they starting crying immediately. They does even she doesn't know what she wants, and she doesn't want to convey to me also that what really she wants. So she was also confused. So at that time, what parents should do?
Yeah, I've been frustrated in that too. Sometimes we don't understand, but that's where our patience to try to get it, it's called being empathetic,
Yeah,
to empathize and put ourselves in their shoes. And it depends on the age too. If they're very little children, I mean, they could cry easily, 2 years old, 3 years old for any number of things.
yeah,
But if they're a little bit older, maybe already in school, then that could be a sign that something is going on, that something, they're being bullied, they've been threatened, or some kind of abuse is going on, and they're told, you better not say anything. And sometimes the crying could be a call for help. And sometimes it might be just that they're um, reacting emotionally, misunderstanding things. But it's really hard to, figure it out sometimes. And it is frustrating when children are just kind of their first response is to cry. Uh,
yeah,
but aside from feeling like you're just crying because you're not getting your way, that's which is not a healthy thing for kids to do because they're not getting their way. But if we could just be a little bit more patient and empathetic, that maybe if they're crying for seemingly no reason,
mm,
there's got to be a reason why they are crying. And sometimes, like I said, it might be something that's going on that nobody knows about, or that they just are very maybe reacting or depressed about some family situation or something like that. But it's hard to know, and you're right, it is frustrating.
yeah. That's why. Even this morning also it happens. That's why I ask you the question.
Uh,
And
yeah,
today, I met one of the parent in the swimming class that he has also same question, that many times kids are doing very weird things. Suppose they many of the tasks they want that her dad will do. Many of the tasks they prefer that the moms want to do. So sometimes you know that we are in a hurry, so the parents are also getting frustrated. Suppose if you are trying to wear them shoes, so that no, 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 the mom will help me. No, dad, no, dad, no, dad. So at that time, what parents should do?
yeah. Well, again, the age of that has a lot to do
Yeah,
with that. Sometimes I remember going through that with my young daughter. It's particularly one daughter. She
mm.
did not want anybody else to do anything for her but her mom, you
Okay,
know, and so she would cry if, mom wasn't feeding her, or mom wasn't dressing her, or mom wasn't combing her hair,
right.
mom was picking her up, not dad, mom, and even aunts and uncles and friends, that she just was very, attached to her mother. So, so that's okay, but except that we can't just always give in to that,
Mm.
just because, sometimes it's kind of ridiculous. It's like, all I'm trying to do is get you
Exactly.
dressed, or all I'm trying to do is feed you, or all I'm trying to do is comb your hair. And, I would just have to do it through the crying,
Mm,
because mom wasn't there to do it, or she was busy taking care of the other kids,
mm,
or something like that. So I'm trying to help. So I would just, let her cry, but I would still, feed her or dress her, or comb her hair, whatever it was I needed to do. And she didn't understand, that, hey, mom just can't do it right now. We had other kids,
yeah,
so she's busy. So for me, what I would do, I would just, let her cry, but still do what I had to do. And then, she would get over it.
yeah. Hopefully. Okay, my next question is, how can the parents balance being authoritative without being authoritarian?
Yeah, that's a good one. The main thing there is to have a connection before correction.
Okay.
To be having a good relationship and building that bond, building that trust, building that connection, the attachment, some people call it, and not just always be correcting and
Mm.
always be saying no and always belittling and putting them down. That's not smart. Or saying just do what I say and don't ask questions, or do what I say, not don't watch what I do, that thing. Because authoritarian parenting is very dictator. It's very kind of mean-spirited, harsh, impatient, intolerant, and that doesn't set a good example. But the main thing about it, it doesn't establish a connection and give your child the feeling that, hey, I care about you, I love you, I love spending time with you, I love talking to you, but right now you've done something that we need to correct. But when you're correcting that, you've spent a lot of time already connecting, building attachment, building a bond. That's the authoritative parenting that we want. So if we're focused on that, and when we do make a correction, kids receive it a little bit more. But if all we do is correct and we don't connect, that's not going to build a very healthy relationship.
But do you know that sometimes the kids, when they are starting with the high schools or the college, they try to hide many things to their parents. They doesn't want to share everything, even though the parents are being friend to them, right?
Yep.
Why the kids has a mindset to hide things with their parents? And what are the strategy for the parents to get out all the things from the kids' mind?
Yeah, well, again, that just goes back to, well, first of all, sometimes it's just normal for kids to, not always want to tell their parents everything.
Right.
For the most part, if you're from the early age, if you're building that attachment, you're building that healthy relationship, you allow your kid, you build a culture in your family where you allow them to express their opinion, not argue. Arguing is different, but
Hmm.
just, expressing their opinion. Maybe they don't agree. Why, dad, why, that kind of thing. But you're building that relationship of trust, because that's really what it comes down to is why are you not trusting me? Why are you hiding this from me? Why are you not allowing me into your life to let me know what's going on? I want to be part of your, that kind of thing. And a lot of times, sometimes it just goes back to they don't trust us, or they're afraid that if they tell us the truth, they're going to be in trouble. And that's not the kind of relationship we want. That doesn't mean that if my son is doing something I don't want him to do, if I catch him, like
Hmm.
you said, he's hiding from me something, and then I catch it, it doesn't mean that there won't be consequences,
Hmm.
but the consequences are going to be according to the crime, you know what I mean,
Right.
whatever he did. But if I'm building this healthy relationship, my son knows if I tell my dad the truth, he's not going to put me down. He's going to understand. He's going to listen, and maybe there'll be a consequence. But the reason a child does that, a teenager, like you said, somebody in junior high or high school, is
Hmm.
because you've established a very healthy relationship. But I will say that even though we develop a healthy relationship, sometimes our kids, as kids, they're going to try to hide things. And I think part of that is just being normal growing up.
Right. Agree. That's right. And I think that last time that you have been in Colorado, right, to visit the prisoners, I think, in jail.
Yes. Hmm.
Right? So while you meet them, what are the difficulties? Because being that parent, maybe they are in guilt because they are in jail and they are not able to do the take cares of their kids, right?
Right.
So what is your feeling about their mindset, or what are the guilt about the most?
Well, the mindset of the parents or the
Yeah,
kids?
parents.
Of the parents. Yeah, it's really difficult when they are incarcerated because that causes they might have a bad relationship with the mother, or somebody might come into the life of the mother if the father is in prison for a long time, for years. They begin to get discouraged. They begin to feel like, what's the use of me trying to have a relationship? I call, they don't answer, or the mother doesn't let me talk to them. So that's very discouraging. But what I was doing, I was encouraging them that no matter what, that continue to write letters,
Hmm.
continue to make those phone calls, because eventually those children, and of course, depending on how long you're going to be incarcerated. But
Yeah.
what I was saying to them is, your children are going to get older,
Right.
and they're going to remember that even though mom didn't let me talk to you, or even though maybe she didn't even give them the letters, they're
Hmm.
going to find out about it, and they're going to realize, you know what, my dad, or maybe it's the mother incarcerated, but my parent cared about me, and they tried to talk to me. They tried to reach out to me, and that just gives them some hope and encouragement, not to just throw in the towel and just forget about their kids, because a lot of them, that happens. They just forget about their kids. They don't try to talk to them or anything, and that's very depressing and discouraging for the children.
Right. Right. Uh, so it's related to the same thing, but it's a different. That what is the biggest misconception parents have about disciplining their children?
Uh, Understanding the difference between punishment and discipline.
Hmm.
Punishment is different than discipline. The word discipline comes from a Latin word, disciplinare, and it means to teach. So when we're disciplining our children, what we're really trying to do is we want a result. We want to teach them something, a lesson.
Hmm.
And in learning that lesson, we want them to change. We want there to be a result of growth and understanding and change.
Hmm.
That's the purpose of discipline. Punishment, we don't punishment doesn't care about results. Punishment doesn't care about teaching. It doesn't care about uh, growth of the kid or a lesson learned. It just wants to punish you for what you did. You're bad, and that's it.
Hmm.
So that's not the best way to discipline our children or teach them consequences, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build their character and teach them there are consequences for your actions, for your decisions. And so you decided to do that. Look what happened. So what can we learn from this? And you're going to have probably a privilege removed. I'm going to take this from you, or you're not going to go here or go do that, because those are the consequences of when you make these kinds of decisions. And that's what I want you to learn. See, that's teaching something.
Hmm.
Punishment doesn't do that.
So sometimes you remove the privileging, like suppose if you are taking the phone or taking the tablets to them, right?
Yes.
Switch off the internet kind of thing. Sometimes the kids are becoming more rigid after that. Then what should parent do?
Well, again, that's where parents have to be strong, and well, let me back up. If we're going to, if you remove their phone or computer or tablet, that's a strong, that's a strong discipline.
Hmm.
So if we're going to do that, hopefully there's been some smaller disciplines before that,
Okay.
and you built up to it and say, you know what, right now I'm going to do this, but I know how much you appreciate your phone, and I know how, or your computer or your tablet, I know how much you love that.
Hmm.
And if you keep doing this, and if you're not going to listen to me, that's going to be next.
Hmm.
And at least that gives the child a chance to have a expectation that, wow, that was a warning.
Hmm.
But if we don't do that, if this all of a sudden we just give me that or give me your phone, then again, that just causes more resentment and more anger. But if we can be a little more wise and kind of, build up to it, I think that helps a lot, because that's a pretty, with kids nowadays, that's a pretty heavy discipline when you take
Yeah.
your social media from them.
Agree. Okay. So next question is how can a parents effectively model emotional regulation for their kids?
Well, yeah, there you go. That's a very good question, and that is why we need to practice our emotional maturity because, we can't just turn off and on like a light switch.
Right.
We're human beings. We have a lot of things on our mind, maybe work, maybe pressure, maybe finances, maybe relationships, kids, divorce, single parent. I mean, there's so many things that can cause us to lose our cool.
Mm.
And for the most part, it's kind of like sports. That's why we practice or playing an instrument. The reason we practice and practice and practice and practice is so that we're actually in the game, or when we're actually performing, we're not thinking because we've already practiced. We're just kind of doing it by muscle memory, and we're doing it by we go into kind of a flow automatically. Well, the same thing is going to be when we are dealing with life. And it's much better in emotional maturity to show our children that
Mm.
we are responding under pressure rather than reacting negatively. Because it's very easy to react to something in a negative way versus responding, thinking, stopping. Wait a minute, I need for example, this is what I would do sometimes.
Mm.
I would be really upset with what my kids did or said or something like that.
Mm.
And then I'd say to them, you know what? I'm really upset at what you did, but I'm not going to do anything or say anything right now because I'm upset with you. So
Oh,
I'm just going to take a break. You need to just go to your room and I'll let you know when I calm down, then you and I are going to talk and we're going to figure this out. And so that to me, that was my way of demonstrating to them how to have emotional maturity and role model for them, kind of taking a time out for myself.
right. Right. But do you feel that the kids are also have the realization after that? Suppose.
Well, it takes time. It takes time, and just like anything else, that we all learn by degrees, little by little by little.
Mm.
So initially, no, they're not going to get it. But if we are consistent, then over time, they're going to see and learn how we are controlling our emotions. But of course, if it's hard for adults, it's that much harder for young people too. So
Yeah,
we have to be patient with their growth process because it is a growth process. So it does. I don't think they're going to get it right away, but eventually they do get it, and I see that in my kids. They've learned, but we all, from time to time, as human beings, we all make mistakes.
yeah, agree, totally agree. And that is the best way that at least you have to give the time out of yourself also that you have to calm down rather
Calm
than
down.
say anything or maybe the bad words come out rather than
Yes,
being a calm.
yes.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, that's what happens, and I've been guilty of that, and the reason I hate that is because then I end up having to apologize. And this is a mistake a lot of parents make. So we react negative, we say things, use bad words, whatever, but then we don't apologize. We
Right.
don't acknowledge it. Now, if our child did that, we would expect them to apologize. We would want them to acknowledge it and to say they're sorry, but we don't do that.
Mm.
And so, we need to do that. And every time I would lose my temper, I knew then, oh, I would regret it. And I knew, oh, now I got to go over there and I got to humble myself and apologize. And that takes a lot of emotional maturity. But again, I'm demonstrating to them that I am not perfect. But when I blow it, I know what to do, which is acknowledge it, own it, and ask for forgiveness.
I think you have already given me the answer of this fifth question that what's the one thing parents should stop doing immediately to improve their relationship with their child?
Yeah, that's that's one of the things right there. And one of the other thing is not comparing our children with other kids.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that
Yeah.
last time.
Last
Yeah, not comparing them and not shaming them and putting them. The difference between guilt and shame. Shame says there's something wrong with you. And
Mm,
we don't want to do that. Guilt says what you've done is wrong.
mm.
There's nothing wrong with you. I love you, but I don't love what you did. Shame says there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
And we don't want to do that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Really helpful for me too. Okay. So next question, how can the parents help their child develop resilience in a world full of challenges?
Oh, that's a great question. This is another thing parents have to understand.
Yeah.
And I know, well, you mean fail in class or fail, get a bad grade? Well, hopefully they won't. But if they do, we teach them, or say they lose a game, or they don't get picked on a team, or they try out for something and it doesn't work out. That's okay because it's bouncing back from that builds resilience. You can't build resilience if we don't fail.
Right.
When I'm teaching leadership, I always say there is no success without failure. Failure is the fertilizer of success. And failure is how we learn and grow from whatever it was that we didn't do well. And then we figure it out. Okay, I did that. Then we tried this other way. And so parents, and I don't know if you have heard the term, have you ever heard the term helicopter parents?
No, I think last time I heard from
Yeah.
yours, you.
Helicopter parents means parents that are always hovering over their children, trying to protect them from everything,
Okay, yeah.
trying to keep them away from this and that and everything.
Overprotecting.
And yeah, yes, overprotective. And uh, or here's another thing. Used to be a counselor, at-risk counselor at a junior high school,
Hmm,
and the kids were terrible. All the kids on my list, I had 50 kids on my caseload. All of them were in trouble. Some of them were in gangs, using drugs. Some were dropping out of school, having sex. Some were, just bad.
hmm.
So, but then the school would bring in the parent, and the parent would side with the kid and start telling them, "Oh, you're just racist. You're just prejudiced. You don't like my son. You just don't like us as a family." And instead of, you know, listening to this teacher or the principal, sometimes it would be me, and they would start accusing us like, "No, that's not, and that's not true what you're saying." In other words, they were, rather than face the truth that their child needs some correction.
Hmm.
Uh, so what I'm saying is that doesn't help our children build resilience.
Yeah. Sometimes the parents have become so offensive for their children. They don't want to listen from anyone.
That's right. And they don't allow the kids to suffer the consequences. How can we build resilience if we don't deal with the consequences of sometimes things that we do or just situations that we find ourselves in? So, yeah, that's one of the things parents can do better is allow their kids, if they fail, it's all right. Let's learn and let's keep growing and learn from it.
Yeah, totally agree. The next question is about what are the some signs that child's behavior is a cry for help and how should parent respond?
Yeah, well, I kind of mentioned that earlier, but part of it is with if they notice their kids all of a sudden they're withdrawing. They're not involved. They don't want to talk. They don't want to eat dinner together. They don't want to have a conversation. They're in the room and shutting the door and just staying in there by themselves.
Mm.
Those are not good signs. Another one is when they're always getting in trouble. Like I said, that could be a cry for help when they're always, you know, fooling around and getting in trouble because they want attention or they need attention for, for whatever reason it might be. So dropping their grades. All of a sudden they were a great student and now they're getting bad grades, or they were really involved in sports and loved playing ball, soccer, whatever it is, and now all of a sudden they don't want to play anymore. So to me, those are all signs where a child is struggling. It's a cry for help, and parents can respond by really trying to have a calm conversation. Maybe you need a counselor. maybe a third party to come in and say, hey, let's have a conversation. So it can be hard when kids start doing that, but the most to me the effectiveness is when we show kids that we have an understanding rather than trying to punish them for everything.
So do we have any other signs that can predict parents also that the children are in anxiety or in depression?
Well, I think you can just see it in their face,
Mm,
and that they lack motivation. Most of us with our children, we know what they get excited about. Some are musicians, some are athletes, some are dancers, some are science. They love science or they love being a beautician. There's something that all of us have a passion about.
mm,
When we see that passion going away, dying out, and all of a sudden they say, "I don't care anymore. I don't want to do that." To me, that's a sign that something's going wrong. Something's wrong inside, and that could be a lot of it. Could be a lot of reasons. What happened? Something happened. It
mm,
it could be a relative. It could be a stranger. It could be a teacher. It could be a parent. It could be a neighbor that's either said something or did something to cause all of a sudden this bright light
right.
just starts going dim. And that's something parents should pay attention to.
Okay. It's really informative then. Yeah, and the next question is related the same that how can parents teach their children to handle the failure and the disappointment in a healthy way?
Yeah, Sammy, I was just honest with my kids.
Hmm,
Admitting my mistakes and sharing with my kids how I would have a bad, day, or I just tried to be transparent so
okay.
that I could show them um, how to overcome it. Because we know things happen in life. We all go through things, whatever it might be. We all have those days. And now I didn't share everything with them, and I didn't, of course, it was age appropriate. I'm not going to talk to my, 8-year-old about some kind of relationship problem I'm having at work or something like that.
Hmm,
But I could just say, what's wrong, Dad? Well, I'm just having a hard time right now with some things, but don't worry about it. I'm okay.
hmm,
But rather than say nothing's wrong, and they could tell something's wrong, but
hmm,
I just say, no, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing. Don't worry about it, rather than just being honest and saying, yeah, Dad, I'm a little sad. Some things are happening at work, or some things happening with your grandma, but I'm okay. She's okay. We're going to be okay. At
hmm,
least, you're being honest, and you're also not throwing too much information that they really won't be able to handle.
right. So this is related to same thing that in India, the parents and the kids, teachers, everyone was crazy for the grades. Okay,
Hmm.
they are crazy for the grades, and they are so heavy competitions in India also. Like even the people started the bond, they start immediately on which school that he or she will go, what the kind of a degree that he or she will take, what are the co-curricular activities they will go, right? They start continue process about that and make having the pressures on the kids also many times. What are the strategy or what is the mindset that we can should the parents increase in there, uh, so at least they should focus on the culture or the values they can give to the kids rather than having the grades.
Yeah, that is a mindset and a worldview that, usually it maybe came from their parents, and where we put this major value on education and status.
Right.
You want to be somebody in the world, but what I think is more important is for us to help our child discover who they are, not who I want them to be.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, let's help them discover who they are. And then once we help them discover, you know, whatever gift they have, because all our kids have gifts, they have talents, they have gifts that are unique to them.
Mm,
And we want to celebrate their individuality, not so much about being a doctor or a lawyer or some profession that
mm,
is not of interest to them.
mm,
And so, you know, again, that's going to take a shift in the parents. And then once we help our child discover who they are and what they're passionate about, then our role is to help them to develop it. And that we start investing in them, maybe the school they go to, or maybe a mentor, or taking them around. Let's say that they're very passionate about being a musician. All right. So there, now that I know that, I'm going to take them to concerts, or I'm going to take them to the park where somebody's playing the guitar and say, let's watch this guy. Look at how he's playing. You know, someday that could be you, or you could watch it in a movie or on television. The point is, whatever I find that my daughter or son is gifted at and what they're passionate about,
mm,
I'm going to help them develop that. And then you know what's going to happen? They're going to do fine in school because they're happy. And
mm.
when children are happy, they want to learn. They're going to do fine. Now, maybe they won't be the, you know, the valedictorian, you
Yeah.
know, but what's more important? That my child is happy and passionate about what they were created for, or some social status that I wanted for them. And even if they achieve it, they're not happy.
Yeah. Agree. Even that, I give the same suggestions to my nephew also, that it's okay to be have the less grades, but you have to be a good person in your life.
Yes.
The most important.
Yeah, that's what's more important, really.
Really.
It really is.
Yeah. The another question is that what's the best way to handle siblings rivalry without taking sides?
Oh, well, it's good if we have equal love for all of our children and not take sides.
Yeah.
Um, what I would do with my kids is I would not accept them arguing and talking back bad to each other. I would make them come together and say, okay, you know what? You need to apologize. I want you to apologize to him, and then you're going to apologize to him. And I don't want to hear you guys talking that way to each other. You need to love each other, respect each other, and I would talk to them that way.
Mm,
So I wasn't trying to find out, well, who started it and whose fault is it, and you know, it's your fault. And now sometimes, to be honest, it could be
mm,
one of the kids is causing most of the trouble. That could be true. um, and so in fairness to the other kids,
mm,
we have to acknowledge that. Okay, you know, it's you're not starting this, you're not causing this, he's causing it, she's causing it. Okay, I'll deal with them, but I don't want you to.
mm.
You're not the dad. Don't you start trying to yell at them and scream at them and discipline them. You just come to me. That's what I always tell them. You come to me, I'll deal with it. And then that way they don't feel like neither one of them could feel that I was favoring either one of them,
Mm,
but because I was being honest about it and
mm.
I wasn't trying to pit one against the other, or make the other one feel like you're the problem in the family.
Yeah. So many times parents try to convey that the person who is the most elder, right? Even the elder
Right.
brother, the parents are trying to convey them, oh, he's so small that you are so more understanding, so you have to say sorry to him, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but see, that causes this is I'm glad you said that. What happens with that when I've seen this many times. So the older son or daughter is like 12, 13, you know, and they have a little brother or sister that's 3 or 4,
Yeah.
and they're whining and they're bullying their older brother and they're crying and they want their way. Yeah, and then the parent does exactly what you said. Oh, well, come on, you know, and they let the young boy have his way, and that causes the older son or daughter to get bitter and to get angry and to have resentment towards their little brother and their little sister.
Yeah.
So that is I've seen that a lot. We need to avoid that, and be fair. If the little kid, 3 or 4 or 5 years old,
Yeah.
is harassing and bothering the older brother and sister, we need to step in and let them know that's not acceptable. You're not going to treat your brother that way, your older brother.
Yeah.
And then at least the older brother or sister feels, okay, my dad's got my back because he's acknowledging that this kid is being a brat right now, and but he's dealing with it and taking care of it.
Yeah. In India, mostly that we found the older brothers has sacrificed lots of things. That
That's
after
right.
the father, that it's like he has to take the responsibility of the whole house. That everyone is thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a little unfair, it seems to me.
Yeah. Okay. Another question is how can the parents encourage curiosity and the love for learning their children?
Uh, I think modeling curiosity,
Mm,
having books, movies, outings, because we want to go explore something different. You
mm.
know, we're always like our family, we're very sports oriented. I was an athlete, my sons were athletes, my daughters were very athletic.
Okay.
So sometimes, but I wanted them to learn other things
Mm,
and to be curious about, the world. What are other things going on in the world? Whether let's go to an art museum, like here in Santa Barbara where I live, they have a natural history museum.
mm.
And it's just something different. They have birds there, they have butterflies, they have bears, they have everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's a natural history
Yeah.
museum. That's not something I do.
Mm,
That's not something my kids do.
mm.
But I would take them to places like that just so that we could, what do they call that? Having some culture.
Yeah.
you know, instead of football, baseball, basketball, cheerleading, dance, ballet, that's what we did all the time. So it's like, what? The world is bigger, bigger than that. Those things are great. I love it, but and I just tried to do that. And then my books, I read a lot, and my kids know that about me, that I read a lot about a lot of different subjects. Even though I'm, doing what I do to try to help families and parents and things like that, but I also try to have some knowledge about a variety of things.
But many times the kids also doesn't know that what they are curious for. They just follow that what the parents will do or where my friends are going, so I'll follow them.
Well, that again, I think that that's normal,
Mm,
but I think that our influence
okay.
is major. And this is why I talk about loyalty.
Mm,
Uh, I don't know if you've seen my book, and my website, but my question to parents is, who's going to win the loyalty of your son, of your daughter, of your children? That's the battle that we are in America,
mm,
for the loyalty, and we are being bombarded 365, 24/7, music, movies, media, internet, social media, and what is happening with those things.
mm.
It's about the messaging. What's the message in the lyrics of the music our kids are listening to? What's the message in the TV programs they're watching, the movies they're watching on the internet, the social media? What's the message? And if we're not careful, what's happening with social media influencers is they're taking the values and putting aside your values, and they're putting their values into our kids.
Yeah.
And what do they want? They want the loyalty of those kids. This is how perpetrators this is how gangs get formed, all these different things. And so for parents, we have to get in the game. And to answer your question, if we are engaging, if we are building relationship, if we are, doing our best to be involved in the life of our children, we're they're going to give us that loyalty, uh,
Correct.
and we're not going to, for the most part, we're going to be the most influential. Of course, friends and peers are always influential. I mean, that's just normal. But when they have that healthy home where the values are lived, not just talked about, but we are living our values, we're loyal to one another, we're honest with one another, we're forgiving with one another, that's going to, in the long run, that's going to have more influence in our children than their friends because some of their friends are not being raised the same way that I was raising my kids.
So related to the next, the same thing, but so how the we can understand the kids to handle the peer pressure and bullying.
Well, bullying, that's a different bullying, is a lot of times, like I said, what happens with that, they're being threatened
Hmm.
and they're being told if you say anything, I'm going to keep beating you up, or cyberbullying, what I guess what they call it on the internet now, kids are being cyberbullied, meaning uh, kids bunch up and they'll make fun of somebody and they put it online and in social media, TikTok or Instagram. And the best way to handle those things, again, is for them to talk about it, for them to bring it to our attention as parents. Now again, they're not going to do that if we don't have that relationship. And I know I keep going back to that because that really is the answer. That really is the key. It's that loving, trusting, open culture of relationship.
Hmm.
If our daughter's being bullied or our son's being bullied, I want them to come to me and tell me about it so that we can do something about it. One of the things I did one time, because my daughter was being bullied, I went to the house. I said, "Well, who is it?" And she didn't want to tell me
Hmm.
because she's afraid. Well,
Yeah.
I can't tell you because then she's gonna, no, 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 you can't tell me. Tell me. So she did. And I said, "Okay, we're gonna go to their, I'm gonna go talk to her parents."
Okay.
And my daughter didn't want to do that. She was afraid. And I said, "No, this is the way we got to do it."
Hmm.
It ended.
Oh, okay. So I
That's just one example.
yeah. So
There's others, but anyway, go ahead.
I met two different parents. Okay. Related, I talk about the same thing about the bullying also. So what they said, I'll tell you. So one parent says that if someone is bullying you, just stay away from them. Don't go to that kind of people. Second parent says that if they bullying you, just give the fight back. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I I think of course it's better to walk away, but I can understand if somebody has to defend themselves and stand up to the bully.
Mm.
I don't like advocating violence because in the end, that's really not the answer. But all I can say is that this never happened to me with my kids.
Mm.
But if my son was being bullied and then he ended up standing up for himself and getting in a fight, I would not be upset with him if he, explained to me, "Dad,
Yeah.
this kid was always bugging me and always bugging me, so making fun of me and saying things to me." And finally, I just turned around and let him have one.
Mm.
And I would say, let's not keep that going.
Yeah.
That we don't want to do that all the time, but I understand why you did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Sometimes that the people cannot control their emotions also, right? If
Right.
continues they are poking, then definitely they will fight back.
Well, and we know there's nothing wrong with self-defense.
Yeah, I agree.
That's really what it is you're defending yourself because yeah, we can ignore it and walk away. But like I said, in extreme cases, yeah, we might say, "I've had enough of this." And those things do happen.
Did you fight in your school?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. More than I should have. Where I grew up was a very uh, there was a lot of violence.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Next question. What are the some ways to teach children empathy and a kindness in a competitive world?
Again, being an example of showing it to others, especially when we can show it to people that have been rejected by society.
Hmm.
And sometimes that can be a homeless person, which are plenty of opportunities, for that. And I don't always, for example, they're usually asking for money. I don't always give them money, but sometimes I do. When I was with my kids, sometimes I would, I had $1 or 50 cents or something. The reason I did that was I was showing my kids, it's okay to be kind to people,
Hmm.
especially be kind to people who can do nothing for you, and be kind to people and give to people with no expectation of a return, because that's a whole different motive. If I'm giving you something or doing you a favor with the expectation that you're going to do it back to me when I need it, that's not the same as we're giving and doing somebody a favor, going out of our way, and we have no expectation of return. That's demonstrating kindness that I think goes a long way. And so it's really up to us as parents. We have plenty of opportunities to demonstrate that through giving, volunteering, um, their friends when they would, get in trouble, and my kids would bring them to our house, and I wasn't mean about it. I would say okay, and we talk. And sometimes I've had over the years, I've had a lot of different of their friends and relatives live with me for a while because they were in trouble, they did something, or they had a falling out with their parents, and we would take them in, and my kids would see that. They'd say, wow, now this family's living with us, or this guy's living with us, or this woman's living with us. And we were showing them kindness, and these people couldn't do, they weren't going to be able to repay me, but that's not why I did it. I wanted to show well, first of all, I wanted to help the person, but I also wanted to show my kids um, this is okay to be kind, even if they can give back.
But do you know from the starting, the kids as born, the parenting are trying to teach the same thing, not as an empathy, but as a bribe. I'm talking about that if you're gonna
Oh,
do this, I'll give you this. If you're gonna do this, I'll give you this, right? So I don't think so. That is a better way. Even sometimes I do the same thing because the my daughters have become so crazy. So sometimes I have to do something like that. If you are be okay, if you are a good girl, then I'll bring a scooter for you and something kind of things. Right?
right.
Do you think it's a good thing?
Not as a habit. Not
Yeah.
as a habit. I know we all give in once in a while. We all give in to our kids. They want cake at the wrong time, candy at the wrong time. They want something, whatever it might be, and so we all give in. We all have a bribe. Look, okay, if you do this, I'll do that for you.
Right.
But as a habit, no, I don't think it's a good thing as a habit. And again, that goes back to building resilience, building character, kids learning that the world does not revolve around you. You're not going to always get your way in life, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the lessons we want to teach them. But let's face it, every once in a while, we all like having a break.
Right. So it's a build the expectation from both sides, from the kids and from the
Right. Yes. Yes.
okay. So how can a parent support their child mental health without overstepping the boundaries?
Uh, being available, being available, and again, the age, depending on their age, not butting into their life too much,
Hmm.
you know, overstepping my line, their boundary. Um, uh, Now, I believe as long as my kids until they were 18 or until they left the house,
mm,
I would always tell them, hey, you know what? I have the right to know what's going on in your room. If
mm,
I want to go in your room, I'm going to go in your room.
mm,
And if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't worry you. Well, you can't come. Well, yes, I can. I'm your dad. You live here under my rules.
mm,
And, if I'm suspecting something,
mm,
that's what's going to happen.
mm.
Now, but again, I wasn't doing that all the time. I only probably did it once or twice where I felt, hey, something's going on, and I would, go in the room and look around and just kind of because as a parent, I'm concerned. Um, and they didn't like that. But again, that I wasn't being intrusive all the time, every day, every email, every phone call, that kind of thing. Because to me, that's over the top. And also, if they're going through things, I'm available. If they need to talk, if they're scared, if they're worried, if they're anxious, if they're sad, I'm available. And I would always make, even to this day, I always tell my kids, hey, I'm here for you. If you need to talk, I'm always going to be here. I may not know what to say or have all the answers, or we may not even agree, but I will listen to you.
Do you
So
feel that the small kids, even the starting from around age 6 or 7, I don't know from where they are learning having the privacy at this kind of age. I don't know from the school will teach them or from somewhere else. They are not allowing their parents to come inside their rooms. They are not allowing to touch anything, kind of anything. Do you feel the same thing at your age when your parents or when your child becomes a parent? Do you feel that?
I, I again, I don't. Kids have rights and they have privileges.
Mm,
And we know kids have the right to eat, they have the right to be clothed, they have the right to be sheltered, they have the right to be loved, they have the right to be taken care of and to be protected.
mm,
They don't have a right to shut me out of their life and to shut me out of their room and to try to tell me that they won't respect my authority, which means I want to see your phone. I'm going to look on your phone. I'm going to look and see what you're looking at on the internet,
mm,
especially with young kids.
mm,
Now, again, there's a lot to that I teach in Parents on a Mission, in my curriculum and in my book. There's a lot to that to develop that kind of trust and that kind of culture. But I don't accept, and I don't think it's good for parents to accept. Um, and you're right. Maybe they are learning it from at school, or they're learning it on the internet or social media or their friends,
mm,
that this kind of mentality, like don't tell your parents. This is always a red flag to teach children. You should, for parents to tell their little kids,
mm,
you should be worried about somebody who's asking you to keep a secret
mm,
from me. They're asking you to keep a secret from your friends, your family. If somebody's saying, this is a secret, I don't want you to tell anybody, that's somebody I want to, number one, I want to know that. And number two, that's not somebody you can trust. They're trying to manipulate you. So that's something that parents can talk to their kids about, because that's exactly what's happening on social media. And too, last Sammy is schools are keeping secrets from parents. And there's two good things out of COVID,
mm.
because COVID was terrible, the shutdown, all that.
Yeah,
There were two good things that came out of that. Number one, some parents who were always gone had the opportunity to spend more time with their kids.
it's right.
And that was good. But secondly, parents started waking up and hearing what teachers were teaching their kids in
Mm,
school, and they were upset about it. I'm sure you saw on the news all the parents were going to school board meetings and they were complaining and arguing, because to me it's not right. And this is what I mean by parental authority is being undermined by our society,
Mm.
where kids are being told to keep it a secret if their gender, if they want to have gender changes, or if they want to have abortions, or they want to have, learn more about sexual relationships, and those things are being kept secret from parents. Well, and the sex education and things that were being taught.
Mm.
Well, parents found out about it. So again, those are I said all that to say, I think some of the kids that are secretive, I do think they're learning it in some schools.
Oh my God. Okay. Do you feel that your kids hide sometimes?
Oh, I'm sure they did when like I said, my kids were not perfect when they're all adults now. I mean, but when they were growing up, they did school. They used, drank, alcohol.
Yeah.
And did things like that, used marijuana, I did all those things as a young teenager. So, I couldn't really, it, I had to be empathetic there. I brought consequences, of course,
Mm.
but I couldn't, yell and scream and get all over their case because I did it. So I understood it, so of course they were hiding that from me,
Yeah.
but parents have a way of finding out.
Agree. Okay. What is the best way? This is a best question for me. What is the best way to talk to children about difficult topic like death, divorce, and loss?
Well, unfortunately, I've had an experience with that. The mother of my kids, I have five children.
Mm.
My wife has three, and we have a blended family, and I've been a step parent for many, many years. But before that, my wife, the mother of my children, my five children, she passed away when she was only 39 years old. This was in 1994, and my children were very young at the time. My
Mm.
boys were 19 and 15, and my girls were 12, 10, and 8.
Wow.
Um, and so that was very, very devastating. It was very difficult.
Mm.
What I did, again, age appropriate, I could talk to my boys a little bit more than my girls because they were so young. But I think it's important to be as honest as we can, as transparent as we can, age appropriate, and not try to flower it up and you know trying to make it something that it's not, because it was sad. It was a very hard time for us,
Yeah.
and so it was better that we dealt with the pain rather than try to deny it or suppress it or act like it wasn't there. I didn't do that. And so to answer the question, I just think it's better for parents to be as open and honest and candid as you can. And of course, like I said, when your kids are little, you're not going to be say as much as when the kids get older. So
Yeah.
that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah. In India, that mostly the parents are when talking to the kids, they said that who has been dead, that particular person is becoming a star. They went to the God house, kind of things they are telling.
Yeah. Yeah. Things like that. I mean, if you're going to say things like that, I think it's okay, but not to overdo it.
Yeah.
Uh, and then in things like divorce, I've been divorced too. And again, I think the best thing to do is just be honest about it, and be open about it, and listen to your children's anger, to their questions, whatever they let them have a voice. Because when you remarry, um, that's again, they have to come with you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
And
difficult
so,
situation for them also to understand the new
yes,
member, accepting the new member as your mother.
right.
Yeah, it's really difficult. So, at what age that did you get divorced? it's okay to if I ask the personal question, right? So I just
Yes.
wanted to understand the mindset of
Yeah. No, no, it's fine. It's fine.
yeah. So at what age that did you get divorced and what are the age of that kids at that time? And how did you cope up with them? And what did you understand them that this is your new mother? I become a that I have a divorce. Now that mother is now not will live with us. What did you say to them?
Yeah, the mistake I made after their mother passed away, I remarried too soon.
Okay.
And in that that didn't even last a year. And my kids were at that very young. They were still all teenagers.
Okay.
Uh, and so what I said to them was that I just wasn't happy. We were fighting and arguing and yelling, and I'm not saying it was all her fault. I'm not saying that. I was a part of the problem too, but I was just honest with them. And then when I remarried my current wife, which was in 2002.
Mhm.
So it's been a long time. They were all still pretty young. My boys were already older and they were in college at that time. Um, but again, I just was honest with them and told them, this is how I feel and this is what I'm going to do. I wanted them to be able to say how they felt, which, some of them they were not very, her kids, she had three boys.
Oh, okay.
They weren't happy about it. Um, and so, we just had to let them say that. Now this many years later, well, for the most part, we've worked it out and we're very happy together. We still have some challenges, but for the most part, we hang out together. We go on vacations together. We laugh. We have parties. And in matter of fact, I think I told you maybe I'm writing my next book. I'm writing. That's what I'm writing about. I call it The Art of Step Parenting, How to Blend Families Without Tearing Them Apart.
Okay.
And in that book, I tell my story like I'm telling you right now. I
Mm.
tell the story about the loss of my wife and divorce and because I want to be real with people that are going through these issues.
Mm.
But the hope that I'm giving them is that, but our blended family, we're doing well. Like I said, we still have challenges here and there, but for the most part, after it's been 22 years that we've been married, um, like I said, we enjoy each other's company. We have a great time together. All the kids get along with each other. But in the book, what I'm saying is that it's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's part of the experience that I've had.
So they are happy right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully. Okay. As you have the big family, that how can the parents create a family culture of a teamwork and a mutual respect?
Well, so many of these questions go back to the emotional maturity of us as parents.
Mm.
That we want to build a culture of mutual respect, respect for authority, respect for one another, love for one another, a culture of forgiveness because we do fail at times. And within our blended family, we've had to have some family meetings
Mm.
and talk through. And that's something I recommend with parents. Have family meetings with your kids. Well, of course, when they're little, it's different. Excuse me. But once they start getting a little bit older, just every once in a while, and that family meeting could be at the dinner table
Mhm.
where there's no texting, there's no phones, there's no, if the phone rings, we're not going to answer, no television, just us together enjoying each other's company and just talking with each other. But every once in a while, I would have a family meeting, that was either because there was something I wanted to talk about with them, something that was happening, or there was a problem that I wanted to address, um, and we would have a meeting. And we still do that to this day. So I think that's an important thing to build the kind of culture. And it's like a team, if you've ever played sports.
Yeah.
Uh, on teams, you don't want to have, the prima donna person that's special treatment, the star of the team. He doesn't have to practice, he doesn't have to show up, he can come and go and do whatever he wants. That builds a terrible culture on the team. But when everybody feels that we're all in this together, we're all pulling for one another, we're all serving one another, that's a good team, and that's the same thing that we want in our family.
Yeah. So does your kids taking coaching from you about the parenting many times?
Yeah, yes, yes, they do. Yeah, they do, and for the most part, they've told me, Dad, this is what you taught us. This is what we've learned from you. And now, not all my kids have kids, but the ones that do, yeah, they and my stepkids too. They receive from me, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. That good to hear that. Okay. Now what's the best way to handle the child who constantly challenges authority?
Well, one of the positive things about that, um, sometimes that's showing the signs of leadership.
Same thing. My daughter is become a bossy right now.
And she uh, very likely is going to be a good leader.
Yeah.
But when they're challenging us as parents, again, we have to assert our authority and make sure they understand, hey, baby, you're not going to talk back to me that way, or you're not going to tell me what to do, or you're not going to tell me that I can't tell you what to do.
Mm.
There has to be that the building of mutual respect. And helping them. There's one thing, when kids make mistakes, that's one thing, but when they are openly defiant, that is something that I teach parents. It's not acceptable.
Mm.
Open defiance, where they know they're doing wrong, they know you told them not to do whatever it was, they know that what they're going to do is going to make you unhappy and it's wrong, and they do it anyway. That's open defiance, and that's something that we cannot allow. But if they make mistakes, that's different.
Yeah. Many times I really my daughter constantly like she wants to fulfill me like bossy that everyone she wants to do, just she wants to do. Nothing matters. She cried a lot. She went to her mother, and the mothers, that how they're treating. They what do they whatever wants to do, and they allow to do. So it's really
Well,
difficult for me also to make my wife understand also and my daughter also.
yeah, I mean, what we teach in Parents on a Mission is that the earlier we can bring our children under the submission of our authority, the better.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it early, it becomes harder. It's not impossible, but the older they get, and we let them get away with, bossing us around or not listening or not being obedient,
Mm.
then it becomes harder and harder to bring them into that obedience. And the bad thing about that down the road, that could cause them a lot of problems when they're out in society and they rebel against authority.
Yeah.
It could be the teacher, it could be the cops, it could be people, a boss, and now they're defying their authority.
Mm.
So that could be a problem later on. So I always encourage parents, the sooner you can, bring your children to respect your authority as their parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next question is, what's the secret to raising a child who is intrinsically motivated rather than relying on the external rewards?
Yeah, that's again, that goes to who I am is more important than what I do. And that's the message that we want to give our kids. You count, you matter, you're important, who you are is more important than what I do.
Mm.
Uh, and like you said a little while ago, being a good person. That's what's most important. And for us to model that and teach them that and make them feel good about themselves by the things we say to them, building up their self-esteem, affirming them. Hey, good job. Thank you for doing that. I really love the way you said treated your younger brother today. Thank you for doing that. And one of the things I encourage to do this with kids is to write them notes. That's something that I used to do all the time. I would write my kids a little note, just a short note, maybe half a page, maybe a few lines. Doesn't have to be long. But what I was saying to them, tonight your mom and I are going to be in the stands and we're going to be watching you and you're going to do great. We're going to be cheering you on and we're so proud of you. And I would put that in their helmet or their baseball shoes, wherever, where I knew they would find it, or their cheerleading bag or whatever. And just writing little notes like that, slipping it under their pillow, making sure they find it. And those words that we speak to them goes a long way.
Yeah,
And they really appreciate it. And it helps them just have that confidence about themselves, to be comfortable with who they are and not trying to be like everybody else.
yeah. And that feels like a positive affirmation to them also, right?
Yes, yes, yep.
The last question is, do you think that the parents should give the sex education to the kids?
Yes, I do. I think they should.
At
But
what?
of course, they might not be comfortable with that, and they may need some coaching on that.
Hmm,
I don't do that. I don't coach in that, but I'm sure there are books that probably provide parents on some guidance, like, well, how do I bring it up? What's the age?
hmm,
Those kind of things. For me, when I talk to my kids, they were at the age of 13. That's when I would sit them down, and one by one, though, individually, not together,
hmm,
uh, and talk to them about, sex and the responsibility of it and why, it can cause a lot of problems, and all those things. It's appropriate. That's what marriage is for.
hmm.
And of course, they didn't always do that. I wish they would have, but my kids did have premarital sex and things like that, and I wish they wouldn't have. But at least I wasn't relying on the school or anybody else to have that conversation.
Right.
But I also, it's okay. I mean, the church can do it or religious people can do it. But the one thing I don't appreciate is if the school is putting ideas in their head about sexual subjects that are not part of my family values.
Hmm,
That I don't appreciate. So that's why I wanted to say this is what we believe.
hmm.
I know there are other things in the world. I know maybe some of your friends or you see, other
Yeah,
uh, things going on, but this is what we believe.
right. Because the many people believes that sex is okay to have it in early without marriage or right pre-marriage, and the
Right.
many parents doesn't like about without marriage that we should not have the sex kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, all we can do is express our values, live our values. But we know once our kids get out there and they get a little older, they're going to make decisions, and we want to be there for them if they, fail or screw up or get pregnant or something like that. Then we're not going to shame them. We're not going to condemn them. We're going to support them and love them, but also let them deal with the hardship of those consequences,
Mm.
because that's what happens when, you make decisions like that.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so last session that's about the fast furious questions. That's 10 questions I'm gonna ask. It's a one word answer that you have to give. I'll give you the options too. So what's the more important for the parents, consistency or the flexibility?
It has to be both. I can't say. I say being consistent is very important. So I would lean a little bit more on the consistency, but we should also be able to have flexibility.
Okay. What's the best way to handle tantrums? Distraction or ignoring?
Not ignoring, not ignoring. Um, again, um, there might be a time where you might ignore it depending on where you're at.
Yeah,
But for the most part, I would encourage parents to teach a child you're not going to get your way if you do that. There's going to be consequences if you do
yeah,
that.
yeah. What's the more effective for discipline? Natural consequences or timeouts?
Um, I think timeouts are okay for younger kids.
Mhm.
You whatever, parents have to decide, but I would say from the ages of maybe 3, 4, and up to, I don't know, 10 maybe. But when kids get a little older, I think they need a little more, something more consequential than a timeout.
So, what's the best way to use the timeout?
Well, what I would do, I'll just say what I did. I would take a chair and put it next to in front of a wall and say,
Okay.
now you sit here and look at that wall until you are ready to apologize, get your act together, and quit behaving the way you're behaving. But until you do that, you just sit there. And
Okay.
well, kids, because if you send them to their room, that might be more fun
Mm.
than, because they have TVs and computers and everything. They could go to sleep,
Yeah.
and I would like, no, that's a comfort. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. You're going to sit here.
Yeah,
And well, it didn't last long because it's boring to do that. So they would get their act together pretty quickly.
I agree. Okay. What's the key to getting kids to listen? Clear instruction or eye contact?
Um, well, to get them to listen, yeah, we need to listen.
Okay.
I think modeling listening is a good way to get our kids to listen to us.
Okay. What's the better for building confidence? Praise effort or praise results?
Say that one. What's the question?
What's the better for building confidence? Praise effort or praise results?
Um, I think both. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those two. I think a healthy balance of both of those is good.
Okay. What's the more important for bedtime routine? Consistency or fun?
For bedtime,
Yeah.
well, I think you can have a little bit of, well, consistency depends on what you mean by consistency. I mean, if you have a schedule, like you're trying to put your children on a schedule, like, hey, by 8 o'clock, 8:30,
Yeah.
that's bedtime for you
Mm.
guys. So that's a good consistent thing to do, that they know that's the way it's going to go.
Mm.
But to have a little fun before they go to bed, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that either.
Yeah. So what's the best way to handle sibling fights? Mediation or the letting them resolve it?
Mediation. Well, I,
Hmm.
I would, yeah, I explained that. I would mediate that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's more important, the screen time, time limits or content quality?
Oh, I think time limit is important. I think parents need to have both a time limit on screen time
Mm.
and have no screen time planned. For example, let's say on Monday, you guys, I want us to have all of us, no TV, no screen time for any of us. We're going to play a board game for an hour or 2 hours on Monday night or Tuesday night or Sunday. And I think that's important as well to have some no screen time, but you're having interaction and family time.
Okay. What's better for teaching responsibility, chores or allowance?
Chores.
What's the more important for emotional development, talking about feelings or modeling behavior?
I think both. I think it has to be both.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Richard. You have given all the answers and thank you for having the wonderful conversation. Hopefully, the parents will get their answer soon. Thank you for having.
I thank you for having me, and they can always visit my website If they want more information, at Richard R. Ramos. Don't forget my middle initial, richardrramos.com. They can find my books there. They can find more resources there. And I really, really thank you and appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much, sir.